RevOpsAF, the only podcast for people who are RevOpsAF and want to learn all about things that are RevOps AF.
Our goal is to give the revenue operations community, that includes marketing, sales, and CS, for any of you not paying attention, the skills needed to accelerate their careers.
And RevOpsAF, the podcast, is brought to you by RevOps Co-op, a global community of operators from all across the globe. RevOps Co-op has membership options for everyone, including a free tier, and programs that meet you where you are, including a Slack group, peer-to-peer matching, weekly newsletters, digital events, in-person meetups, courses and education to help you level up your RevOps game, and more. Whether you're just getting started in revenue operations or have been leading teams for years, you'll find resources, connections, and real answers inside the community. Learn more and join today at RevOpsCoop.com. That's RevOpsCoop.com.
Welcome to RevOpsAF, the podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Camela Thompson, and today I'm joined by Arjun Ganatra. Arjun, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Arj. I'm based in New Jersey. I've been in the RevOps space for a little over 10 years now total. I started off just working as a Salesforce associate in a large consulting firm. I really just focused on coming in, fixing some small errors or taking people off of Dynamics and moving them onto Salesforce. Leveraged that experience to kind of hop in and work at Stack Overflow. Really came in and helped kind of change their GTM tech stack and really loved it and kind of fell in like with what RevOps and RevOps systems is as a whole. Parlayed that experience into where I am now at Veriff, where I've also kind of come in. It was an opportunity for me to launch Salesforce from new. They were also transitioning from Pipedrive. So super cool for me to not come in and fix people's mistakes, but hopefully make those same mistakes myself or maybe minimize them because I've learned a lot, hopefully, across the last 10 years or so. It's been awesome. Been a great ride. I love the company. I love the people I work with. Definitely a lot of interesting challenges along the way as well. You know, working with a global company, we have teammates across the world from San Francisco to Tallinn, Estonia, Barcelona, now even Sao Paulo, Brazil. So it's amazing to see all the cultures come together and really, you know, work on an amazing product and for an amazing team.
That is awesome. And I'm going to try not to get off track because you said so many interesting things. But today we're here to talk about improving data hygiene through what I call passive logging and really thinking through how we can leverage the technology other teams are using to get the most out of our data hygiene without putting the load on the sales team. So with that said, I think throughout my career, and I've heard this from more than just RevOps folks, I've heard the phrase, data entry is why the sales team gets paid a base salary. I've heard that from CFOs, from VP of sales, definitely from revenue operators. Why? Do you agree with that or do you challenge that?
So I think early on in my career, I did kind of agree with it. I was thinking very short-sighted. I was just like, you know what? Yeah, this is like, hey, you're making this and you're getting a lot on commission anyway. Like I've seen your commission plans. Like there should be a part of your daily job. But then I kind of see like, you know, as I've been also a buyer on my own side, I see the sellers I work with as I'm buying software. So I've seen the buyer journey and I also look back at our own sellers. I'm like, hey, how can you help me become a better buyer? Like, what can I do to also improve too? And I also realize that like, yeah, if I'm telling you a lot of information, is there's a way to just for you to just have it logged down or, you know, a lot of tools nowadays can do it for you. It really does help. And it also helps me, you know, like it helps the seller become closer to the buyer, right? They don't have to worry about taking those notes. They can really connect with someone at a deeper level, right? Maybe we're chatting about our favorite soccer teams or football teams if you're European, right? There's just a lot more you can do and really connect. Maybe there's like, I have also recently realized like the importance of like having a connection over WhatsApp or over text because you can get a lot of faster back and forth. And there's a lot more negotiation that can happen offline as opposed to something that's recorded on a call. So yeah, I realized that like data entry overall is critical and such a valid part, especially as a revenue operator who goes on the back end and looks at the data, analyzes it, loves pulling reports time over time, week over week, quarter over quarter. But like, how do I unlock the seller's time so that they can go out and get the next big whale, right? We want to make sure that like our team is focused on delivering all the time. And like, yeah, they shouldn't really be bogged down by something as simple as updating a metrics or who is the economic buyer. That should kind of be inferred for them. And, you know, as a RevOps person, I also want to make things more efficient. I want to make the overall process more efficient and like decrease time to revenue. So what's the best way to do that is like a simple thing to attack is data entry. So yeah, I've changed my tune across the days, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's really smart, stepping back and looking at it as a technical buyer, because all of us have experienced the frustration of being forced to meet with somebody for what I call the fake demo. I come to the table with all of my technical requirements. I just want to get to the nuts and bolts of it. And if you don't have a technical person on the call who can answer my questions, I'm going to get frustrated really fast. It's also going to be frustrating if I have to download all that information to the next person on the next call too, instead of somebody taking notes and forwarding it and them coming prepared at the very least. So I think it's
Yeah.
really smart to step back and think about your experience as a buyer and what frustrates you, because I guarantee you people are feeling the same thing if you're selling to a technical audience.
Honestly, sometimes I just come into a call. I'm like, are you guys using MedPick or Spice? Like, what do I need to tell you so that you can get all your little fields filled out, and then we can actually just have a real conversation back and forth and like figure out what really matters? Because like, I will tell you, I'm not your economic buyer. I'm your champion through and through. Or like,
Yeah.
I'll tell you how to unlock the champion or unlock the economic buyer. But at the end of the day, like, I know my place in the cycle, and I know how I can influence a deal. And I know where that stops because I know how to ensure that I'm getting the most leverage as a buyer as well, because I want to make sure I'm getting a great discount. Like, that's something I always try to pride myself on, is like, I don't want to be paying full price for a tool ever. But sometimes I have to. There's no choice. But like, I'm going to ensure that I'm getting the best value for what I'm paying.
Absolutely. It better wow me and check all the boxes.
Exactly.
So we've talked about most people have call recording software now, and I used to be opposed to that, but now that we have AI coming in to help us normalize denormalized or unstructured data, it helps. With all the things we could automate, what are some of the things you recommend that revenue operators work with their sales team to figure out what doesn't make sense to be automated in terms of data entry?
So I think I really want to step back and examine what the reps are putting in right now. A lot of it is unstructured data, right? Are you filling out? Maybe it's a rich text area. Maybe it's a simple text area. Sometimes it's a pick list. Sometimes it's a lookup to a contact. I want to make sure that we're optimizing for what AI can really solve for. And I think the more specific you are, the better. You want to make sure that quote unquote hallucinating, as it's come to be called nowadays. So you want to make sure it's giving you accurate data. So I really like the pick list approach too, right? If you have a dedicated list of pick lists, like, hey, this is the use case. These are the challenges they're facing. These are the metrics that are important. This is the competition that's been discussed out of like a top 5 list or a top 10 list even. I think those are just easy wins, because like, I think it's as simple as nowadays, most people get a transcript that sends a call. You can download that transcript. I built a quick thing in Gemini where you can save a prompt and just feed it transcripts, and it'll just spit out information. And then it's just there for copy pasting. We can even take it a step further if we really want to. But even right now, just as a simple first step, it's like, if I'm looking at it from a RevOps point of view, if I have a bunch of calls and I want to make sure that I get the data out of it, let's write a prompt and just solve for one thing first. Let's just look at metrics. Hey, did they discuss any metrics in the call? Here are the metrics that we find important as a company or in our seller process, like what sets us apart as our unique selling points. Start feeding transcripts one after one and see what comes out, and then just refine. And then maybe you need to change the settings a bit to make sure you get rid of the fluff at the beginning. Like, hey, just give it me the list response, right, from this list, and maybe a detail section afterwards. And then you can just feed it one at a time. And then maybe you want to look at it like, hey, here's 10, examine each one, and then tell me what each one was, but then also tell me the trend across all of them that you saw. And maybe you get different responses. So I think it's just a matter of like, starting small and seeing what's out there and then moving upward. I think one of the first things I did recently was there was this case where we want to look at our service agreements that have been negotiated. And I want to see if we still had publicity rights. I don't want to have to go in and search like 7.3. Did they change? Did it not change? I just made a Gemini gem. And now every time I have a service agreement that comes in that's been modified, I just throw it in there and it fits right back. This is what changed. This is what the context of the change was, as opposed to what the default is. And now it's just like copy paste and put into my system.
So when it comes to not automating, though, I feel like RevOps sometimes well-intended, but we interfere sometimes a little too much with something like pipeline stages or what kind of fields should be required. The danger there I always feel like is either over-engineering and trying to automate every single stage or requiring a bunch of fields that even the management team isn't bought into and doesn't want to enforce. I still see it all the time consulting, even publicly traded companies, the sales team revolting and then moving back to spreadsheets for the majority of their work, which is not ideal. So how do you recommend kind of segmenting what do we want to keep some thought in and some independence when it comes to salespeople using the CRM? And what are truly the things that we should be trying to take off their plate because it's burdensome and unnecessary?
Yeah. I actually love what you said about something should never be automated. I'm a big believer we should never be automating pipeline stages. I think that should always come from a rep because they know the whole situation the best. They probably know why something is in validation for 23 days as opposed to moving within 5, because maybe there is some deeper things we need to go validate with the customer about their use case. I always want to make sure that the rep is doing it, but I want to make sure we're making it easy for them to do it too. I did this at Veriff for the first time and it was awesome. It's been a big hit with all of our reps, especially new ones that come in. If you have any fields that are required, instead of having your reps go hunt and peck for them, on the right-hand side, usually where there's like a related list or if you're using like a 3-panel component, there's always like that right-hand view. I just put all the required fields at each stage in its own component that just shows up. So like as you're clicking through, like, hey, if I'm in S3 or S4, what do I need to move to S4? Everything is the top right-hand corner and I can just access it and view it and then fill it out. What do I need to do? I just look to the right. It's all there. Information's there. What do I need to fill out? Like maybe it's a count field. I can also display that too. So like Lightning has unlocked the game to make it easy for you as a RevOps person to like help your reps fill out the data faster. And I think a lot of it is like, as long as you make it easy to fill out, there'll be less complaining. Right now, it's like, yeah, I know you have to fill out 5 things, but they're right there. Like they're all like, drop downs or dates or, here's a contact you need to fill out. Oh, you need a contact role? Let's automate creating contact roles. If you fill out a field at the opportunity level, it'll just create a contact role for you. So like simplify a few things so it helps everyone along the way. And then I think you'll get less whining towards exit criteria.
I would also say your top of the hierarchy sales leader has to be absolutely bought in, because if they're not sold and they don't think it's their idea, your sales team isn't going to be sold either. Get buy-off from the management team and make sure you have champions within the sales team so you don't have a revolt, because I've seen that happen way too many times.
Oh yeah, that's like number 1, and number 2 is like everything you do, make sure you're vetting it with your senior leader, make sure they're bought in and have that support from them. I usually always like to preface like a week or 2 before we go live with the managers, at least like, hey, like managers or then senior leaders, this is coming, this is what I have done, this is what we built, say something right now, or like I'm gonna go live with the managers and get their feedback first too. I also love what you said about champions. I'm a big believer, especially for buying new software. Let's go in and have a champion group first. That's just not RevOps, right? Get our end users on there, make sure they're playing around, and it's not just like a 1-week trial. I want like a 1-month trial minimum too. Like I want to make sure that there's people in there week over week, and I can see the usage. Like it's like, yeah, the first couple of days, everyone's gonna be in there. But I want to see who's logging in after the first 5 days. Because I think that's when it really is it sticky or not, right? Like are the reps getting value out of this? So I think that's really important too. And then, yeah, like I think that like it really works. I've had tools that come in and like I have a champion group and they see kind of like, oh, wow, this is working well. And I have other reps being like, hey, like I saw this come through. Like, when can I get on this? And I'm like, okay, cool. How did you even hear about this? Number 1. But then number 2 is like, okay, yeah, you want this? Let me see how I can finagle another license. I can maybe get this done. You can be on this trial too. You are like, if I have someone who's asking for something, I know they're curious. And if they're naturally curious, they're going to give me feedback. They're going to give me good feedback, actual feedback, not just like, oh, this isn't working. And they're going to be like, hey, this is why isn't it working? And then I want that because like, as a RevOps person, like, it's like, okay, cool, let's go fix something. Let's make your life easier. Or let's go close this deal because, we made it easier for someone to buy something from us.
Yeah, I'm always looking for salespeople who are bragging about the type of apps they have connected to their smartwatch, or they have their bed temperatures automated running for them before they early adopter types.
I definitely need a bed temperature thing.
I have one and it's amazing. It's
for sure.
Incredible. But yeah, those sales reps are always the ones where I'm like, yes, let's get you on the pilot program, because you're like, not only do I know that they're interested in cutting edge tech, but they also are loud. Mm-hmm. And I like that, especially if it works well.
I mean, I also
we
think there's like,
go
they're
ahead.
loud, but they're also a bit humble too, right? They're willing to be like, hey, I know this isn't going to be perfect. Or like, hey, like they're actually honored that like we're thinking of them within a minute. Like, I'm trusting you to do this. Like, they might actually take it a bit seriously because like, yeah, sometimes I'm not always seen as the best person to work with. I am in RevOps. I unfortunately have to say no a lot more than I say
Yeah.
yes. And then unfortunately I have to be like, hey, how come this isn't filled out? Or like, maybe go get this signed again because you forgot to add a zero and your entire like our order form is incorrect. Like this needs to be fixed. So I sometimes have to play bad cop, but it's always nice when you come in and be like, hey, like I know like you asked a lot of questions and sometimes I'm not always the best at answering them, but I'm trusting you because you also always give me great feedback, right? I know I can trust you to deliver for me when I'm asking you to test something out, which is
Yeah, early
very important.
adopters don't necessarily expect perfection, whereas there's some salespeople with really unrealistic expectations that things are going to get logged straight out of their brain. And I'm like, we don't have the chip yet. And I'm hoping we never have it.
They're just like, hey, I have this. And I'm like, do you have anything more than this? Like, am I just supposed to
Yeah.
know what you want me to do with this now?
Yeah. Yeah. I need a dashboard. Least helpful instruction ever.
Yep.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about some of the data entry you've automated. Let's talk about that a little bit more and how we think about it. I think about it personally in 3 categories. We should really be thinking about this and doing it manually, which is very few fields, like pipeline being one of the examples. And then we have stuff that can be mostly automated, but we don't trust all the way. So we want the salesperson to review it before we put it in place. And then there's stuff that's a no-brainer to automate, and we've already been doing for ages with data enrichment. So how do you think about those categories? And what are some of the first things you look to automate for the sales team?
Yeah. I think it's really like 3 main categories altogether, right? Like what's critical that needs to be filled out, what's important from a forecast point of view, what's important from a finance point of view. What are things that we cannot live without? You're kind of right. There's maybe 3 or 4 fields, like a close date field. You can also make it easy for them to fill out from Slack or from their email, but also that is something that you need to press the button to do it. I don't want something pressing the button for you. But then there's also a lot of things such as like, yeah, a lot of what I said about men pick and spice, like critical fields, we care about them. Do I really trust you're going to give me more than just like NA or Jack needs to sign or, testing? Then POC, like it's just like, I don't really get a lot, and I don't want to put a lot of rules in place. So like you need to have at least 20 characters in the field. What is something around those lines that we can figure out? That was a big thing first. It's like, okay, cool. What's that? And then 2 is win reasons and loss reasons. A lot of time is spent like, I know the reps are just kind of fill in the quickest answer for them. Like they're maybe not going to give me the best thing. So I was like, hey, like we marked this opportunity as lost. Why did we mark it as lost? Let's go look at all the emails. Let's go look at all the calls and see, what was said. Maybe we can feed it into, like I said, a Gemini gem or a ChatGPT agent of like, hey, this is all the transcripts. This is the criteria that I want you to examine on, and then see if any one of these 5 or 6 options is true. And if one of them is true, then give me a detail about it. Or if multiple are true, then give me the detail about all of them. And I want to see if any of them trigger, because then I can go validate that and go back to the rep and be like, hey, I looked at all these. I didn't actually watch all your calls, because that would be like 10, 15 hours of calls perhaps. Maybe like reading 50, 60 emails. But I fed it all into an agent and I got this back out. Like, what do you think about this? Is this right? Is this wrong? And like, would you actually benefit if like this actually told you this, and then that way you can fill it out? There's always that like suspicion, like, what are you looking at me like this for? But I'm like, no, this is always like with good intention, right? I feel like I built up enough goodwill to be like, hey, I'm not coming to like attack you. I'm going to help you. And so like that, I think that goes a long way to like, helping disarm them and be like, yeah, you know what? You are right. Like I did have a rough call, or, this was more of a feature thing, but I put poor timing, right? Because it was actually both, because it was like the feature doesn't come out for 6 months, but they need it now. So it is kind of poor timing, but it is also a feature request. So like, how do you balance both?
Yeah, and I like that, because I feel like there's some things that are no-brainers, like if we can automate opportunity contact creation based on who's attending meetings instead of having salespeople fill it out, marketing and sales wins. Or if we can determine the opportunity contact role from the call and the conversation they're having, that's great too, as well as different notes throughout. So I really like your thought process, and just spending time talking to the sales team. What's taking you too much time? What are you avoiding? Why are you avoiding it? How? And then thinking through how we can automate it. So
Actually, one thing I want to add there before we move on, I actually love what you said about spending time with the rep and understanding what their point of view is in their process. I think as a RevOps person, if you're not doing that and you don't have that connection, you're never going to get far as a RevOps person, because like that's the number one thing, like that's your number one consumer. You want to make sure you're spending time on the ground floor, listening and learning, because that's where you're going to get the best ideas from. And maybe there's so many quick wins you can unlock just by sitting next to someone and being like, hey, let's walk through your day. Can I just like listen in on a few calls while you're there? I don't need to say anything. I'll just be a silent participant. But I just want to see what you're talking about, because that'll also give me ideas about like what I can do. Maybe there's an enablement we can do that'll help unlock so much more as a team.
Yeah. And I think this might anger people, but I'm here for it. Most of the consulting gigs I get brought in are on the tails of a consulting firm that came in and said, this is how we implement things, and just did it, instead of talking to the business leaders and figuring out what applies to their business and what doesn't. And anytime you try to put something in place without speaking to the end users and learning the rules of the business, it's going to fail every single time. So if you want to have repeat clients, or if you want to make your business happy and you want your system to actually be used, you have to talk to the people using it and the people who want to report out of it.
One of my latest tactics was I was using a lot of dashboard requests. So I literally just start sharing my screen, pull up docs.new and pull up a fair Google Docs and be like, this is what you're telling me you want in a report. Does this align with what you said? And then just go list by list, down line by line, and make a bullet. Okay, these are the reports you want. Now, how do you want them to look? Do you want it on a chart? Do you want it on a donut? And I just having that be in front of them, get created. Also was like, okay, no, I didn't mean this. I don't want old time. I only want 90 days. I only want last year or this or that. And so like, I think just like having something in front of someone, like a lot of people are more visual than they realize. And just seeing something just unlocks another part of like, okay, what about like that creativity moment? And that's when you really get the best requirements out of it too, right? It helps you get better requirements, but also there is some key that gets unlocked and that will make their dashboard. And as long as you have that, you know you've done a good job, right? Regardless of what the other components are, because you found that one component that they truly do need and want.
So what are some of the tools you're using to automate this data entry?
Yeah, I think there's a few tools out there. I think one of the ones that I've seen the most success with is Momentum. We actually started off as just layering it on top of our existing call recorder and just looking at transcripts and seeing what comes out of there. And I think it really helped. Like, I think the number one problem we had right now was we use a lot of internal Slack channels, and people were coming up with like their own call summaries. And it was really difficult to kind of just translate, hey, what does the audience want? What do they care about? So we spent some time talking to both AEs and AMs. So like, okay, what do you care about from a prospect point of view? What do you care about from a customer point of view? And we came up with 2 summaries. And those summaries were like an inner champion group. When I said we had someone asking for it, someone was like, hey, I saw this AE summary that I got from Momentum. How do I get this too? I want one of these as well. So like when you literally have people knocking on your door during a POC period, you kind of know that it's going to be sticky and it's going to work well.
Yeah, I like that. And let's give a couple of examples. Are you feeding it to any of your qualification fields? How are you connecting that to your CRM?
Yeah, great question. I think there's a variety of ways we're doing it. I think the things that we like, the reps love the most, and I also love as a RevOps person the most, are our MedPick fields. We have those as save before suggestion because I feel like we don't want them auto-piloted and just getting brought in. I want the reps to kind of think about it before they suggest it. Maybe they want to change something, and it only helps get the model better. So we have one set that gets autopiloted. So I know, hey, this is what the AI came up with. I have one set that's save as suggested, which like the reps also need to fill out as part of their exit criteria. So I kind of get like both a rep point of view and a momentum point of view. We also then did that for Spice. Instead of having Spice come from the reps, I was like, let's just have it be autopiloted and then like update after every call. So after every call, you'll just be like, hey, this is, here's the S, here's the P, here's the CE, whatever that is, auto-populates. And I think that's been great because now I just have a tab on the opportunity page. Managers can go in, reps can go in, they can see what they're missing or not getting from Spiced. And the last 2 things are actually go together. One is momentum next steps. So we do a quick rich text summary after every call. It gets brought in. I literally have reps take that, copy it, and paste it into the regular next step field that they do. So like, or maybe just take the one part that's the most important and just take that one sentence. But like, it's been a great tool just to like, hey, as a rep, what do I need to, how can I minimize what I need to fill out? You still need to fill something out yourself, but I make it easy for you to fill out. Then also, what are 3 questions you should ask on the next call, which I think has been really impactful because like, you're going to miss something. So the transcript can tell you like, hey, maybe you should dig deeper about this, situation or this critical event that came up. On your next call, here you go on your opportunity in your details page. When you go to do your call review before your next call, you can see like, hey, here are 3 questions. And then after every call, it'll just be 3 new questions. So I think those are 3 really good from the rep point of views that has like really helped transform their life from like filling things out, understanding their data, understanding how they're working through our sales processes and our framework.
Love that. So it's really hard to predict the future. And I know I look back on my life and there were several life-changing moments where technology was introduced, like when we got mobile phones and when laptop technology turned into smartphone technology, and now ChatGPT and LLMs and natural language learning. What are you hoping is on the horizon to make some of this easier for either you or your sales team? Like, what do you think is just beyond reach that you're thinking is going to be available in the near future?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I actually wish I had that crystal ball as well because I can start building it. But I think right now it would be like looking at the next step. Right now we do a lot of call summaries and we share them back and forth. But how do you ensure you're sharing the right pieces of data? What if you had an automated way to be like, okay, cool. Once I'm done off a call, I automatically spin up a mini website where we can share data back and forth. And then that way, a lot of the kind of hand holding of like, okay, we need to set up a call. Let's have AI automatically look at both of our calendars, find the exact time for the meeting points. Let's also go in and chat directly. I don't need to type anything. Let me speak to the model directly like we're doing right now and have it understand what I'm saying and fill out the data on that mutual success plan for me. That way, a lot of the data comes together faster and it's also shared faster too. I don't need to go ask you over email. After we spoke, I'll have this document, this shared drive with everything we need that we spoke about, meeting transcripts. There'll also be a place for me to ask it questions. And so like a better way for a buyer and seller to engage with each other, but also using voice as opposed to typing. So I think right now I'm spending a lot of time writing AI prompts and I want to see how I can stop doing that and just being like, hey, this is what I want. Make me the prompt so I can just copy paste it. And I think that would be amazing.
I'm just excited for the hallucinations to back down because I'm tired of like making progress and then backsliding because all of a sudden it just decided it couldn't do something that it's been doing repeatedly. That's my, I don't dream big. I watch for what other people are finding and then I'm like, ooh, that's cool. But yeah, like you, I think you have a better grasp on what may be right around the corner. Whereas I'm like, I don't know, let's just see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, I think from the hallucinations point of view, I found that like being very structured and ordered, I think this just comes back from like when I was in school, like a lot of it was like process oriented, like making sure you're like feeding it one after another. I think one use case was I was having trouble summing things up. And it was because I was asking to sum things up in the beginning before I went through the analysis. And I was like, what if I just asked it to sum it at the end and then all my numbers started ending up correct? And I'm like, it was just a matter of operation. You just need to ensure you're being as specific without being like, writing a novel, and then you'll get what you want in return. But I also found out sometimes being vague and then having the model decide how creative it wants to be also works really well too.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta say, once I find a good prompt, I just use the same one, but sometimes it'll barf on me. So asking it like, why did that happen? Because up here, you did it just fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that just comes with having examples. I love this one thing that I work with my Momentum CSM on. We basically built a meta prompter where it was like, okay, cool. We know we have exactly what you said, that great example that's working well. I'm going to plug that as the example and be like, these are the things I want to change. I don't want you to focus on situation. I want you to focus on pain or impact or a critical event. And it just basically gave me such great spice prompts so that now I have exactly what I was saying, that automated view after every call. This is what happened in terms of situation or spice. It didn't change week over week. So it'll tell me that too.
And I do like your point. It's really not like using Google. It's more like having a conversation with someone who can give you feedback.
Yeah.
So being vague sometimes and then narrowing it down, that is totally a good call. So time for a quick plug. Where can people find you to network? Where can people learn more about what you do online?
I'm all on LinkedIn. That is the number one place you can find me. So it's really just /LinkedIn/Arjun Ganatra. So ARJUNGANATRA. It's just my first and last name. You know it's me because it says I'm a spy novel lover. I love books. That is like my one way to unwind is going and reading and having a good time and just kind of disconnecting from reality through a novel or a book. But yeah, that's where you can find me. Right now, nowhere else, but hopefully you'll see me more places soon.
I love that. I don't read anymore nearly as much as I should because I do it so much for work.
Even while at work, I just have AI summarize things for me. Who reads at work now? If I'm going to read something, I'm going to enjoy what I'm reading. I don't want to read a technical thing or an API documentation. I'm going to be like, hey, tell me what I will need to do from this doc.
Unfortunately, I'm the person writing the documentation and doing all the content. So yeah. Hi.
That's a different story.
Thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode, everybody.
For more great content like this, join our community at RevOpsCoop.com and check out the links provided in the show notes.
Keep it RevOpsAF, y'all.